Hi, my name is Amberly and I'm an artist based in Atlanta. And today I am actually getting ready to apply for a call for art. And I thought I'd just go ahead and show how I go about applying for calls, where I find all the calls and just my process of kind of organizing it, and then applying to the shows. I have one call that I'm going to apply for today, and then I have this whole list, which I'll kind of show you how I organize things. So typically the way I go about things is I kind of have a multi-step process of doing it, but I will look on Instagram. I pretty much start on Instagram for finding calls for art. So that's honestly one of the main reasons I still have social media. Hey Luna. Is so that way I can look and see who's having a call for art. Because typically what I've noticed is that they will post it on their social media pages, sometimes even before I will see it online. You really have to look on their website, or there's websites like Cafe or Submittable. But typically the way I find out about most calls is through Instagram. So what I do is I look through Instagram, and for all of the calls that I'm interested in, whether I think I qualify or not, I will save them. And I'll do that for pretty much everything that I find that I'm interested in. And then once I have all of those, what I'll do, I'll write them down, and then here I put the date that it's due. Now sometimes to trick myself, I'll actually put the date earlier than it's actually due, the final day to apply, because I know I like to procrastinate. So anyway, so I just put the dates here. Now once I have all of these listed and the date it's due, I go online and then I actually take a look in detail at the call for art. Depending on the call, there will be different places that you can apply for it. Now, the first one on the list that I have was the Atlanta Emerging Artist Award. Now that one, I do remember, hold on, I'm typing. One was through the mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs. I remember looking at this a year or two ago, but not applying. And then looking at it again this year, I remembered why. And that's because I was not in the correct zip code. Now that is more like an award/grant. And so the requirements might be different than a call for a gallery show, which typically is open regionally. Sometimes it will say nationwide. So they all kind of vary. So you need to check the requirements. This one, as soon as I saw that I wasn't in the zip code, I didn't look any further because I can't apply for it anyway. The next one on the list was for the Avondale Art Alliance. This is kind of more of a newer space. Let's see. When did they open? Okay, they're not new, 2002. I'm wrong about that, but I feel like they got a reboot recently, with a new director maybe. But I looked on there, and the call for art that they recently had is actually not even on their website. I saw it on their Instagram, and then through their link in bio, that's where it came to a form to read about it and apply. So that's sorry about my babies. So that's one of the main reasons why I like to look on Instagram, because it's usually more up-to-date information about where to apply and the call versus websites. If you've ever ran a website, it's work to update it. So those are not always up to date, especially if it's not a big organization. So definitely checking Instagram first. But the one that I'm going to apply for today is through the Southeast Fiber Arts Alliance. and that is actually in Georgia. And I think my work qualified for the call. Hold on. Okay. I do have to pause soon, but for this one, it's called Intertwined 2025 Contemporary Southeast Fiber Art Call for Entry. And this one I did find on Instagram, and then I looked at the post, and then I went to their website, and then on there they actually did have a whole lot more information about the call, the eligibility, location. Basically a lot of them, like either on the website or on whatever platform they're using to apply for, they'll also have a timeline. Typically it will have when it opens, when it closes. Usually it will say when the artists are notified and then the show dates. So those are all really important things that you want to look at. They'll also mention if there's a fee for applying. Sometimes there's information about the juror, if there's any prizes that go along with the show. So I looked this one over, and this is the one that is due today and that I will apply for today. All the rest of them kind of go towards later in August and early September. Okay, so I am back from carpool. But as I was saying, I'm going to apply for this call for the Southeast Fiber Arts Alliance. They're actually based in Georgia, not far from where I live, which is perfect if I get accepted into the show and just for, you know, hopefully building that relationship. But what I did not talk about was for the Avondale Artist Alliance, for that show, let me pull it up. So this show, they did post about on Instagram, but it is not on their website. So if I had just checked their website, I would not have any idea about it. But this one is called Material Impressions Fiber Mud Glass Exhibition. And I thought this one would be perfect because it kind of talks about exploring material. But once I looked at the kind of like requirements to apply for this show, it wanted the work, hold on, let me pull it up, give an exact reason why I'm not applying. So this one said, okay, if mixed media, the majority of the artwork must be made from one of the materials above: fiber, textile, glass, or clay. Now, the work I make, I range in my work from like paintings, mixed media, but for the most part, my work is silicone rubber quilts. So there's these, I thought I had a piece nearby, but there are these pieces of silicone that I dye and sculpt and mold, and then I stitch them together. So I'm not applying for this one because my work does have a lot of stitching and thread. It has a fiber, I guess, technique, but it is not mostly fiber. So I'm not going to apply for this one, but the intertwined one with the Southeast Fiber Arts Alliance, they did not specify like the majority of material. I think it mostly just had that, let's see, exhibition will showcase a wide range of content, material, and techniques common with the common threads of craftsmanship and passion. So I think that my work applied. It is a textile or fiber-based technique, but the material is not fiber. So it still applies, and I think it'll be something different for them to look at. Now this show that I'm applying for, let me kind of show you what the website looks like. This is on their actual website. And then if you read here, it has like all the information about the call, eligibility, where it's located. This is that timeline I kind of mentioned. And then it has the entry fee. And then it does also talk about the jurors. So for this one, whenever it says to submit your application, click here. And it takes you to this website called Cafe. I talked about how like I find most of my calls on Instagram. Now this website called Call for Entry or Cafe, it does have where you can search for calls, but I found like they're kind of like connected. So the calls that I find for on Instagram will usually be on call for entry, but not, or like the other way around. So like some of the stuff that I find on call for entry is not everything that I see on Instagram. So it's kind of just depends on where the gallery is putting the submissions. So to kind of talk about that further. So you will typically apply through call for entry, or there's something called submittable. On submittable, I think they do like, so on call for entry, you can search for calls. You can search for residencies, grants, exhibitions, publications, all that kind of stuff. On submittable, you might be able to as well, but most of the time when I've used submittable, it's just like a direct link to submit to that call. Whereas call for entry, you can like search for stuff and apply there. So the one that I'm applying for, it is on Cafe. And Cafe, there is an account for either artist or for like galleries. I go through the application. I do like, for call for entry, you upload your images to like your portfolio and then you can apply there. So here it has it is asking for my artist statement, the materials in my entry, techniques, if it's for sale and how much, and then I can upload the images of my work. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do all of that, and then I'll show you what the completed form looks like. Okay, so I finished my application. Now this one is a little confusing because on the application requirements, it says submit 1 artwork per entry, submit up to 2 entries. And then parentheses, go through the entire entry process for the first artwork, then go through the entire entry process again. Now, it would make me pay the entry fee twice, so that's kind of a lot of money, $35 2 times. And whenever I actually went through the application, it had 2 sections to where I could answer the same questions. Let me show you, like the artist statement, but here it asks about the material, and then it asks the exact same questions again. And then here it says choose work samples. I chose 2 because the first time when I just did 1 work sample, it said is submitting a body of work. You can reorder samples. So I'm just doing it this way and labeling it as this is entry 1, this is entry 2. Hopefully it gets accepted. It is past 5. I tried calling, but they didn't answer. So I'm just hoping this works. So once you do that, you go to checkout, you agree to pay your entry fee, and then you type in your information. So while I kind of do this, I did look at the call in more detail. So the Turner Center, which is the venue, not Southeast Fiber Arts Alliance, they're kind of the organizers and they're the ones who are putting together this exhibition, but it is at the Turner Center for the Arts. So they are taking a commission of 30%, and then it said if you choose, like if your piece sells, you can choose to donate a portion to Southeast Fiber Arts Alliance, which is a nonprofit, to help establish a prize fund. So I did say I would donate some. Hold on, let me type this in. So I just had to like review that more. It also talked about like, so one thing that I've messed up with, it doesn't happen often, but one time this did happen to me, is that I had work in a show and then I applied that same piece for for a permanent collection. So it was going to be purchased. I didn't get any information on when the piece would be purchased for the permanent collection, or if it was going to be. So I applied it for a show, it got in, and then towards the end of the show, I found out that the piece was accepted. They wanted to purchase it for their permanent collection, and that it had to be shipped off because it was going to France. I was able to talk to the gallery and they were fine because it was just like a day early. That is not something I would recommend. So that's like the tricky part with calls, is that you have to not only look at your artwork, you have to look at the timeline and if anything overlaps and how likely you think you are to get into one show versus another. Those are all factors you have to consider. I'm hoping I can get into this exhibition because it's for fiber arts, and I've never been in a show strictly for fiber arts. I think this could be cool. So I applied for the call. I submitted my fee for applying. So here it shows you, thank you for your submission, the date, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it will have on your, there's also a website called Slide Room. Slide Room is what I've used for residencies and like 1 or 2 exhibitions. And what am I trying to say? I use Slide Room to apply for art school. Slide Room I feel like is not used quite as much, but sometimes it will show on your confirmation page when you hear back. This one did not, so I'm gonna write down when my camera is slipping. I'm gonna write down when I should hear back. So I didn't apply for that one. I did not apply for that one. I did apply for that. So this show would, and this is like after I apply, because sometimes like these first two ones, after reading about it, I'm not applying. I don't need to write all the extra information down. But for this one, so the show, I would be notified by October 1st, and the show would run from, that's a long time, from November to January. And this one did say that, I got a little off track, but this one did say the work has to be in the exhibit for the entire time. You cannot take it out early, which is generally how most of them go, but especially if you have like a relationship with the gallery or something, like usually you can talk to them if you need to take it out early for some reason. Again, I don't recommend that. Don't do what I did. Make sure your show dates don't overlap. But yeah, that's it. So I applied for this one. I don't have to apply for anything else until like later this week or maybe next week. But I just want to show that process because nobody really showed, even in like art school, we were told about places you can find calls for art, but I don't remember actually going through that process. So again, what I like to do is just scout for calls for art, looking on Instagram, sometimes Facebook. Like if there's a certain gallery I really want to show with, I like check their stories and their posts all the time. So I look for all of them and then I write down when they're due, and then I kind of determine if I could actually like apply for it, like if I'm eligible. And then after that, I decide like which ones are really worth it to me. I consider things like the timeline, the entry fee, what pieces I have available. So all of those things, and then you go to either, sometimes you'll submit, if it's like a free application, sometimes you'll submit on Google Forms, through email, but most of the time it's through call for entry or submittable. And then you just kind of cross your fingers and you wait and see. This one I'll find out in October. The other things that I'm applying for, the deadline is like end of August, beginning of September. So I have time, and then a few of them are grants, and then a few of them, I don't think I'll have overlapping work, maybe one of them. So I kind of have to figure that out. But that's the process. It's seems kind of intimidating and hard, but if you just slow down, which I have a problem with, but if you just slow down and read the eligibility, figure out what work you have, and then just apply. I think the main thing is applying. So many people are scared to apply. So many people are scared to apply, but like you won't get accepted unless you apply. So apply to as many as you can that you think are worth it, and then you just wait and see. So I will keep you all updated for any shows that I get into. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. Please subscribe to my channel and watch more videos. Thank you for watching.